Welcome back, everybody.
Hello.
Hey.
Every time you mute your cough, I'm going to cough in place of you. And so it'll line up with the video.
That would be fantastic. So if anybody who's watching the video will not make any sense at all. And also you'll have to look at me, and I don't look great today. I've been sick. I'm getting over it, so apologies for that. You can listen just the audio only this week. Maybe that would be best for you. How you guys doing? It's been a while.
I'm doing good. I'm back in action. Is today the 10th? Yeah, January 10th. So for like almost the last 10 days, I've kind of been doing not regular home stuff. I've been on the road.
Yeah.
Finally, yesterday was my first day. I paid bills, and I started working on some projects that have been lingering. I really got some good stuff out of the way. But yeah, this is it. 2024.
I'm really anxious to hear about the chair build. That whole process, because just from the outside, seeing little clips of everybody I've seen down there that makes those chairs with him, they look so precise, and look at that thing. That's crazy.
Oh, there it is.
Really,
so spindly and like, I don't know. I want to hear about it.
Spindly. Yeah,
spindly.
No, this chair. I just took a chair class with Greg Pennington, and actually I was editing the video just before we started. That might be my first video of the year if I can get something together in the next couple of days. The class is a 5-day class with up to 6 students, and you learn the process of making a Windsor chair. In our case, we made a Windsor rocker. You can make a regular Windsor chair. Each thing, of course, has its own formula and degrees of pitch and so on and so on. Because of the time constraint, he doesn't let us do the lathe because he said the whole class would become all about making things on the lathe. So he makes the spindly legs, which are the sexiest part of the whole thing. And I have a little video of him whipping one up in like seconds because he's so used to making them. He just uses a little story stick, and every depth is basically done by feel and touch. And he makes 7 spindles. They all look like they came right off a CNC machine. The class consists of us froing the wood, getting the wood, froing it, basically splitting it down along the grain lines, and steam bending the continuous back, and all the angles. There's so many angles, and there's all different tips and tricks on how to get those angles drilled correctly. And there's lots to it. I couldn't build another one of these without instruction because there's so much to it. And I didn't take notes or anything because I was just going through the process. But I would love to do that again. I'm definitely going to go down there at one point and take the class again. And Ann was there, and Jenny Bauer, and Justin Mabey was there, and Patrick, the electrician, Patrick Reynolds, and Rob Rojas. We all went down to the class. It was a lot of fun. Justin Mabey and Jenny Bauer just kind of hung around. They were just there for moral support. And we had a really nice time. So I drove down to Nashville. And I drove home. So the night before last, I drove 1,000 miles one way. It's nice to drive again. You know, it's been a minute, I guess, since COVID. But remember when I used to drive everywhere?
Yeah, he did.
And I think I'm going to do that again. I know Workbench Con's coming up, and I was talking to Derek. I said, I think I'm going to drive. If you want to get a ride, I'm going to drive. It's nice to be in my car and stop and just at my own pace. When it's time to leave, you don't have that airport anxiety. It's like, well, I'm just going to go get in my car and go home. So like, am I going to make it? Can I get on the plane? Am I holding a razor blade in my sock? I can't remember. You know, stuff like this. This is all stuff that goes through my mind.
Yeah, you always forget if you've got hidden blades.
I do. Yeah.
So I'm curious about the chair building. I mean, obviously, going through a learning process like that and having that experience is just good because it's the experience. I mean, you've done something new. You have a new set of understanding about that chair. Is there stuff from that class that you can definitely see yourself putting into something else that you would make in the future, or does it feel very chair specific, that style chair specific, stuff like that?
No, I learned a lot of techniques. There's just so many subtle techniques. And it's funny, Greg said, I wish you hang around here for a month. I would learn so much from you as well. There's so many traditional ways of doing things. And there was a couple of moments where I was like, can I do it like this? And he's like, well, I've never thought of doing it like that. That's perfectly acceptable. There was a lot of those moments. But I learned a tremendous amount. Simple techniques, for instance, trying to drill an angle. You have to drill an angle that's like 90 degrees in this orientation and 15 degrees in this orientation, or 24 degrees. And We use lasers in some cases, but the real old school method is to just put a mirror at each angle. So if you're looking down at it, you have an angle on the 90 and an angle on the degree, a mirror, and your drill is in the middle, and you have a bevel, an adjustable bevel at the right degree. And then when you look in the mirror, you could see where your drill is in relationship to the adjustable bevel sitting upright on the table. And you just hold it till it's parallel in the mirror, and whoop, you drill your hole. So you got to look at the two angles. You got to look at the 90, and you got to look at the degree. So your eyes are darting around to the mirror is constantly looking down, looking forward, looking sideways, and you just take a nice slow drill, and that's something I'm going to use forever. Putting a bevel gauge upright on the table at the degree you want, and a mirror on the other side of it. So you have your drill, the bevel gauge, and the mirror. And if you look in the mirror at any angle, you could see how parallel you are. There's no hard, fast rules. You could put that mirror sort of at any distance or where it seems comfortable so you can see it cleanly, and you'll get that angle as long as you're. There's a varying degree of variability because there's not a. You're not a quill.
Do you explain this at all in the video you're editing?
I will, because I do show it. Yeah, this video is going to have to be a talk over because there's so much music in the background and conversation. I'm going to kind of mute mostly the entire thing unless Greg has some good instruction while he's talking, because I filmed him a lot. But I'll fill in the gaps. But yeah, no, that just happens to be a really cool old school trick that sticks with me. And in some cases, we didn't use a power drill. We used the bit and brace. And we did the bit and brace while we're looking at the mirrors.
The egg beater.
Yeah. And sometimes he's got lasers that take that up. So as you're drilling the hole, the laser is right on 1/4 of the drill bit, even though the drill bits say 3/8 or 5/16 or ½ inch. You just have you tilt everything until the laser is kissing the side of the drill bit. So there's lots of angles, and vanishing points and all kinds of crazy things. So when you draw the pattern to drill all the holes, there's all these extra tick marks, and all those extra tick marks make up the incident of the angle that they need to be drilled at. It's pretty crazy, because you know how the back of the chair has got 14 spindles that are all splayed out, and all those are indicated on that laid out piece of material that you sketched onto the thing. Go ahead, Dave.
Have you guys seen it's like a Facebook or an Instagram ad, or I think it's like a Kickstarter project, but it's like these little red laser pointers that go on your drill, and they spin around on your drill so you can see, like, makes concentric circles so you can see if you're drilling straight.
Yeah, those are great.
I'm tempted, but the ads look so shady that I don't want to give them my credit card. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of those recently. Different color lasers, and you can tell that somebody had the idea, and then a bunch of other people are just like, "Oh yeah, I can do that too, quick!" So there's a bunch of different.
Right.
I don't know. I'm sure one of them eventually will come out, and that will be trustworthy.
Milwaukee or DeWalt.
Yeah. But well, cool. That sounds like a cool class.
It was great.
Have watched, really, Anne and other people down there taking that class before, and it's one of those things that I know technically I would come away with a bunch of those types of little nuggets, but it also seems, just from the outside, it seems completely overwhelming. Like, to do all of that work in that amount of time seems like, I don't know. I could probably find something else to do in a weekend. But
it's funny.
No, there was a lot of hurry up and wait because, we all didn't work at the same pace. So we get to a stage. He breaks down also the carving of the seat, which looks complicated. And there's obviously certain traditional shapes and bevels and stuff that you would follow just so you look like you've made a Windsor chair. And to get to those various milestones, there's lines drawn on the chair. It's like, okay, carve to this line, and then wait, and then scoop out to the end of this drill bit depth, and then wait. And we all just followed the steps, and before long, we all made 3 chairs that basically looked the same. At one point, we're all like, who's this? Oh, this one's mine. And we had to write our name in pencil, in a prominent spot, because we kept mixing them up. But it was, Patrick never did any carving or chair making ever in his life. He never carved wood, and he's an electrician, and he did a really beautiful job There's a lot of it on the. I put it on my Instagram post where we're all doing the draw knife at the same time, like the heavy metal, just look funny. There's a lot of draw knifing, and if you don't have upper body strength or you haven't developed your pull rowboat muscles, you'll feel it. It definitely felt a little achy after a couple days. You got to do the draw knife a lot for all the spindles. You throw them out of a chunk of wood. So you have basically a log that's sliced, and you throw out a vague 1 by 1 inch piece. And some of it looks really crooked and cockeyed, and you're like, there's no way this is going to make it all the way to the end and still be good. But by the time it all goes in the chair, it's all focused and fairly square. It's crazy, fairly straight. Like if you looked at this, I look at some of these and I'm like, oh, I remember that one looked horrible when I started. Because you develop an affection for each one of these spindles because you know them intimately as you start carving them.
Weird.
You do a rough carve on them and then you put them back in the kiln for a couple days. So you get to a milestone. It's like the skinny ends all had to be 7/16 and the fat ends all had to be, I think it was a 1/2 inch. And you do that, and then once you get there, then you put them in the kiln, and then 2 days later you take them out of the kiln, and now they're much drier and more harder to carve, and you go on with the spoke shave. You could do more of a controlled cut. It's a lot of fun. You definitely learn the techniques on the draw knife and the spoke shave and several other tools. There's a thing called the baked potato. It just looks like it's like a spoke shave, but it's for scooping out the seat. And you push on it, or you could pull on it, and it really is a beautiful tool. And a lot of the tools, like he's like, oh, this is made by John Smith and so. They're not like brand name tools. A lot of the tools we use were made by individual people like us that just make that one tool. So that I thought was cool too. Cool. Also.
Cool. Tool. That's cool. That sounds worthwhile. Sounds like it was a good.
It was absolutely, it was absolutely worth it. I would highly recommend it. His classes are always full. He says as soon as he announces a schedule for the year, he says he fills up in a couple days. But he said there's always room for more. And he said a lot of people will drop out. So he said there's always room for something or somebody somewhere. Depends on how bad you want it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, David, what have you been doing? Have you made a chair in the last couple of weeks?
No. The funny thing is, when I was in high school, we could pick any project that we wanted to work on, except a chair. Mr. Myers said a chair was too difficult. The angles and everything is too difficult for where you guys are at right now. So anytime I think about chairs, I think about Mr. Myers saying that. And then when you were mentioning you had to write your names on the chairs so you knew which was which, it brought back a memory that I didn't need to have brought back, but it was just like one of those, like
some childhood trauma.
High school, there's no trauma. But in high school, you had to write your name and your period on all the pieces. So when you came back the next day or whatever, you knew what was yours. And I was building this cabinet. I think this was my senior year, and basically I had like 2 or 3 shelves and a drawer in the bottom, and each piece had my name, David Picciuto, 7th period, on all the pieces. And the school year ended before I was able to finish that cabinet. And so it never got sanded, it never got finished, but I took it home, and then it ended up going to the different apartments that I moved into, and it just never got finished. I just always remember on every shelf it says David Picciuto 7th period. And then one day, it ended up in a band practice space, which was on like a 2nd or 3rd floor, and we took it up to the roof and we threw it off the roof and crashed it into the parking lot.
So, I thought this was going to end with, and this is it right here. I finished it last week.
No. Yeah. When I say I don't have any kind of like emotional attachment to the things I make,
you mean it?
It's 100% true. I don't need any of the things I make. I can just make new ones.
Well, okay, so that gave me an idea though. So as you are continuing to create, pieces of art that are around woodworking, why don't you sign them David Picciuto 7th period?
7th period.
That would be amazing.
I totally should.
If like somebody got one of your pieces and it had that on there, like what a clever little unique signature for an artist.
You'd only have to sign things that you didn't finish though. Those are the ones you sign.
Right,
that- with that moniker.
That's my signature move. Is not finishing my projects.
90%.
Yeah. I'm working on. I'm really excited how this project's coming out. I got one of those X Tool P2 X Tool P2
He's from Star
laser.
Wars, right? The
Yeah. R2D2. I got one of those
X2P2.
R2D2 lasers, and supposed to do a review, but I don't want to do a typical review, so I wanted to make a project. So the goal is, can I make a real woodworking project with just a laser? And when you look at, like, I really don't like how laser projects look. So the idea is to have this look like like a fine woodworking piece of furniture that couldn't be made with a laser. So it's basically a little end table that goes on the side of a couch, and the legs and everything are big, beefy, 1-inch thick guys, and I'm just lasering at one layer at a time, gluing those together, and then veneering the whole thing, and it's coming out really good. Like, it was supposed to be this fun little experiment, but I'm really loving how it's coming out.
So you're saying the whole thing
And
will be cut in pieces on the laser cutter?
Yeah. So we got 3 sheets of 5x5 foot 1/8 inch plywood, chopped it down so it would all fit into the laser bed, and then everything is just made one layer at a time with holes in there, so you could use dowels to make sure everything lines up perfectly.
Nice.
And then everything gets veneered, and it's coming out really good. I'm really
that's
thrilled with it.
interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like a human 3D print in a way? Is it like that? With the layers?
In a way, yes. So not every layer is horizontal.
Right.
So like the legs aren't made up of
Stack.
1,000 pieces. They're vertical.
Okay.
So yeah, and everything is just hidden with veneers, and it's I don't know. I'm just really thrilled with how it's turning out.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Is that going into the new house, or is there, like, what's the next thing going into the new house?
I don't know if it's going in. So here's the idea was I was going to build a record player stand for the new house. I ordered a somewhat cheap record player and speaker combo from Amazon, and it's got the record player looks like it's made out of wood. And I was going to make a stand for this, and it was just going to hold like it's going to be about 20 inches wide and just hold 30 or so records. And this was all going to be done on the laser, one layer at a time. But I had this really thick, beefy base. And then when I started calculating how many sheets and how many layers it was going to take to make this thing, I was like, there would have been way too much waste. And this was the night before. I had drawn this up a few days before, but when I was trying to figure out the different layers the night before, I was like, I can't do this. It's just going to be too tedious and too wasteful. And so at 8:00 the night before, I'm like, I need a new project. I don't know. And I'm like going through like some of my sketches and some of my photos that I've been collecting off the internet. I'm like, oh, I'll just make an end table. And that'll do. And I had this idea for an end table that I kind of mostly borrowed from the internet, and without a plan for it. And so I think it's going to go in the new house. There's a new couch that's getting delivered there today. If it looks like it belongs there, that's where it'll go. Otherwise, I'm going to take it to the Goodwill. Gotcha. Which I've done that a couple times, and that always gets a reaction. That's why you need to hang around to the end of the videos to see if I donate the project.
Gotcha.
Does the people at Goodwill recognize you when you come in? Do you come in that often?
No. But the times that I have donated my projects, I'm sure that they didn't even make it out to the floor.
You mean the staff steals it?
Yeah. I had a buddy who worked for the Salvation Army, and he had probably 500 T-shirts, and he was one of those like vintage T-shirt collector guys, and he loved his job because he could just borrow T-shirts from that. He never paid for anything. I love you, Jeff.
It reminds me, my dad, we're cleaning out my dad's house, of course, and my dad, every year for like 30, maybe 35, 40 years, he worked at the church, and he would every year they'd have the white elephant sale, and people would donate anything they don't want to the church on this particular window in spring, and my dad and his team would go through it and put whatever they want on. They'd raise $5,000-$10,000, but my dad would go through it and take everything he wanted. So he'd have all blenders, toasters, silverware, all mostly just house fodder, and my dad would take what he would want. So right now we're in the process of going through everything that he took, which is everything he owned, basically everything in the house, of course, and just the few times we've been there so far, we just put it on the sidewalk. Rob was with me. We did a Facebook market, come and take it. And 60% of it was taken away. But that's why my dad has so much stuff, because he had first dibs every year for 30 plus years at the St. Anthony's Church, and he would take whatever was going to go in the white elephant sale, but he took the good stuff. Cameras. If there's one, there's in the pocket camera, like this is an expensive one, but I'm holding up a Lumix. This is the one I just used on my trip. But the little point and shoots where the front slides open, like the old Sonys, he must have a couple hundred of those tucked in every corner of the house. And I know he got most of them at that white elephant sale, because people don't lose the charger. They don't know what to do with it. My dad snatches it up. So going through all that stuff. It's fun. It's crazy.
I'm sure. Do you have any idea how long it's going to take to go through everything?
My sister and I were talking about that last night, actually, just before I went to bed. And we realized there's no rush. We're not going to take 2 years, but we don't have to have it done in a couple of days, or in a couple of weeks. The house is going to be winterized, so we don't have to worry about kind of paying attention to it. I shut the water off right away, but the house will sit empty for some time. But in general, we're just going to take our own pace and eventually get the house prepped and potentially sell it or keep it. We don't know yet, but we're figuring that out. But in the beginning, there was a little bit of an anxiousness to like get it done. And last night we realized between all of our schedules and the logistics, no one lives right near there, so we'll just take our time, do one or two weekends a month until it's done.
Yeah,
I spent 3 days there so far, and 3 dumpsters, and I've gotten rid of a lot. We made our way through a couple of the rooms so far. So,
good.
We lost Dave.
Yeah, he'll come back probably. Well, let's see. So I've been sick. Right after Christmas, I got sick. So I had a weird,
It's been that long?
I don't ever get.
So you going on 2-3 weeks?
Yeah, it's been going on for a while. I don't usually get sick. Like, I don't remember the last time I got any sort of a cold or... I don't know. I just don't. And right after Christmas, I started coughing, and I got some sort of a cold thing, and then it got better, and then it got worse. And so when it got worse, Monday, the guy that I was telling you about that had the kiln, who's had the kiln for us for multiple years, pre-COVID, he was coming up through the area, and he offered to bring the kiln. So he brought the kiln, and he's on his way up here, and I'm like coughing that morning, and I'm like trying to work, but my legs are kind of like felt woozy, and my legs felt weak, and I'm like, this is like strange. I've never had this before. So I took a COVID test. Turns out I was positive.
Oh, boy.
And so,
what do you do?
So I sent him a message, and I was like, I know you're on the way with this thing. I will leave you money outside, and you're just going to have to drop it in my driveway because, I don't want to. And he did, and he was great about it. But I think he's going to drop back by on his way back through, so I can at least shake his hand and say thank you. Anyway, so we have the kiln now, which is cool. But that process of I don't want to get anybody else sick. I should probably check this out. And then it was like, I got COVID. The rest of the family tested negative, so now I just got to stay away from everybody. And
so now you're like the lecher in the basement?
I'm better, pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah. So I don't feel bad anymore, but I'm still in the middle of my trying to keep everybody else well separation. Yeah. So I've been doing that. But another weird thing that happened at that same time that I got sick is I had like a rib pop out of place.
What?
Have you ever had this happen?
No.
Yes.
Okay.
I've had it before. One other time. David's internet went down, apparently. So, and this is funny because there's actually not funny. There's a thing called slippery rib syndrome,
Right.
which I don't think I have, but there is a
Right.
thing where people have like loose ribs and they pop out of place. And I don't know why some people have it, some people don't, but apparently it's pretty common, and people can have a rib pop out of place, and you can just like do certain stretches to pop it back in. And I did that because that's what it felt like. And it got better, but now I've had this ache in my side rib area for like 2.5 weeks now. And having a constant pain, or a constant, like, it's not even pain, it's like a soreness, that zaps me, that takes my energy way more than coughing and being sick and stuff. So the last couple weeks have just been a lot of like, I'm trying to be productive, but I don't really feel good, you know?
Oh, man.
So it's been a little bit strange.
What is do you have an idea of what your next video is? Have you guys gotten close to something?
Yeah, there's one that I've been working on that should be out this weekend, as far as I know, unless something goes wrong. But basically, I got new shop lights. So remember those lights that I had in my shop, the flat panel LEDs? Did I ever show you those? They're like drop in for drop ceilings, and they worked great. They spread a lot of light. They all had the same color temperature and all this stuff. And we realized over the last 6 months or so that the lighting and all of the shots for the videos started getting really out of whack. And we're having all this trouble chasing like white balance and all this stuff. And so
I have the
finally
same
looked
light,
up
so
at
I'm worried.
so I looked up at the lights, and they're like changing color, and they're fading,
Ooh.
and they're all doing it differently. It's not like they're all beginning to become one thing. Some of them are getting cooler. Some of them seem to be getting warmer. Some of the lights are starting to dim on one side of the panel, and they're just failing.
Because I remember when I built the shop, I'm like, hey, Bob, these are the lights that I got. So I think you got the same exact lights that I did.
Yeah, probably. But at the same time, I have some here in my office that look perfectly good. There's no problem with them. So I don't know if maybe... And I bought a whole bunch of them at one time back then. So maybe I got a bad batch of them, or I have no idea.
I'm not worried.
Anyway, those are failing. And the big problem... They're not failing from like they're not putting out light. They're failing from color temperature and consistency and stuff like that. And in the filming space, that's pretty important. So started looking for other types of shop lights that I could put in there. Trying to find something different and something that was probably cheaper overall in case this happened again and stuff like that. Anyway, I found these like strip lights that have LED strips inside them. So they actually would be easier to swap, because if I needed to replace the LEDs, they have a diffuser on them. They've got plugs on both ends, male and female, so you can link them together. Anyway, I found these lights and went to try them out. And these lights are going in... My shop has exposed ceiling joists. So before, with these big flat panel lights, I could just mount them to the bottom of the joists and use that surface as... where everything was mounted, and I can put in screws into the bottom of those joists and put them anything anywhere I wanted to. The problem with that was that it's kind of a low ceiling, and so every time I'm shooting video that is not at eye level directly, flat, if I'm looking up at all, or if I'm zoomed out really big, you can see those lights in the back of the shot, and they become these really bright kind of hot spots. And so I was trying to figure out a way to avoid that by moving the lights. So this video is about using 3D printing to problem solve a better way to mount the lights, to get them out of the camera's view, but still spread the light. And so basically it's me experimenting with modeling brackets to be able to mount these lights up inside the joist, but be able to move them up and down and find the right place for them and stuff like that. And it's so funny because I came up with a little simple idea to be able to make them be able to move up and down inside the joist space. And it kind of worked. It worked, but it was kind of a pain to install. And I've got to put a whole bunch of these lights in. So this is like before Christmas, I start mounting these lights. I model this thing. I do a couple iterations of it, and the whole video is supposed to be about problem solving and everything. And it's working, but it's like not great. Then I get sick, and then I don't do anything for like a week, week and a half. And I'm standing in the shower, trying to like get rid of all the gunk in my throat. And all of a sudden, it was like I got shocked or something. I'm like, I'm doing this completely wrong. I have such a better idea for this bracket. It's so weird.
Those amazing
and
moments.
So like, as soon as I got feeling well enough, I went down and just like started the camera up, and I'm like, I have a better idea. And so I came up with a better idea for this bracket, something that's way more general, more useful. And so I hope that it comes through in the video that it was like an iterative thing, and then I had to step away a little bit and then had a better idea. I don't know. The last couple of weeks are kind of cloudy, so I'm not really sure how well the video is going to be put together. We'll see. But anyway, so that's the video that's coming out. I've also been working on, I think I've told you about it, renovating our basement space, like right outside my office here, where the ping pong table is and stuff. I've been putting in recessed lighting in there, and it looks like way better. I just painted a big mural on the side of the wall, which I think turned out really cool. And so there's going to be a couple of videos about that space and doing different things out there, but that's going to be in probably February or March or something. So, yeah, I'm working on stuff, but in little bits as I get my energy back. So that's kind of what I've been up to. And I'm really anxious to get out and work on the car again. My hope was while the kids were out of school and I was kind of taking a couple of weeks of work off, that I would get out there a couple of days and just, make some real progress off camera, just to make progress. And I have not felt like going out there at all. So it feels, it's kind of a bummer. It just feels like a wasted opportunity, but what are you going to do? You're sick. So hopefully I'll get out there and be able to work on the car before too long and make some progress. That's one of my things for the new year. I don't know if we're going to talk about like goals or anything, but this year I really, really want to make significant progress on the Ghia. I want it to be, I'm not going to do any more body work until it warms up, but that means that I still have like front end, back end to tear apart and engine to figure out how to rebuild. And, there's a bunch of other stuff I can do in the meantime. So I'm just going to try to prioritize some time and start really like chipping away at that thing. But I've been thinking a lot as I've been laying in bed about this coming year and things I want to accomplish, but I don't want to keep talking because I need to clear my throat really well. So, have you guys been thinking about that? I mean, is that something that
I
you
made a
naturally
list,
do about looking ahead at the year?
100%. I made a list, and I can read it right now, actually. I was going to publish it on Instagram, which maybe I will. So 2024, and this is just a quick thing. You can see here this list that I made, and it's not... it's overexposing, but I'll read it. It says leather journals, mini stools, 6-pack wine holder, which I have to make next week. I got to make a set of steps to go up to the top of the barn. They sent me a Costa Rican slab from a company that deals in exotic woods. I want to make a Burt Reynolds Trans Am. I want to make a smoking Am. This is like me. I want to just like get a Trans Am, 77 Trans Am with T-tops, any color, potentially have a beige interior, and make it into
a bandit.
A bandit. Truck bed. I got to do the truck bed. I got to build barn doors.
A bandit with a truck bed?
Yep. I got to make an Irish sign for my neighbor. I have sheets of aluminum I got to turn into something. I want to do this potential idea with Carolina shoes where I make big giant footprints and walk through the snow with them. So it would be like Bigfoot thing, which I think after I wrote it down, I'm like, did Paul do that? That sounds like a Paul idea. Maybe I thought of it after Paul did it. So I gotta check with Paul if he's ever done that. I'm going to do a metal forming video where I form top and bottom die and form steel or aluminum. I want to do bronze casting, power hammer restoration. I have footage of me restoring the power hammer, but I don't have a lot of it. So what I want to do is make a project on the power hammer and just keep having flashbacks to me and the crew restore. Because during Maker Camp, like 15 guys worked on the power hammer to get it done. It was like one of those things where you see like an overnight restoration of a car and like 20 people work on it, so you can't help but get done in a really timely manner. So during Maker Camp, one of the days it poured rain, so like 10 guys, 15 guys hung out at my shop and restored the power hammer. And I kept jumping in and out and taking footage of it. I want to make new gates for the house, campaign chair, which is actually it's funny because I wrote it in my thing, and then at Annie's house, I was at Anna Voltrade's house. She had made one, so it was good to see hers in close. I want to make a giant hourglass. I actually started working on this video last night. Skived leather wallets with the bags. I have so much leather left over, but it's such thick leather and it's such small pieces. I can't really do anything with it. And so I got from Weaver a skiving machine where you stick it through and it splits it. So I cut all my cut all my wallet blanks last night, and it's 10-ounce leather, which is very thick. And then I put it through the machine, and it comes out the other side, and it's split in half. So it's half as thick, and it's much more pliable to use for wallets. So it's a cool. I want to make a wood-burning stove from scratch, just sheets of steel. I want to make a garden cart that I could pull behind the Polaris. I have the boat motor video, which Rob restored last year. I haven't published it yet, but I also haven't finished my final scene. I want to make a trailer for the boat because it's so heavy. I want to do a hot sauce holster for leather, which I've seen online. I'm going to do a thing called the Table of Horrors for Total Boat. I have all these freeze-dried animals.
You have my interest?
All the animals that I found in the
my interest.
All the animals I found in the graveyard house. I'm going to put them all together in a table, a big resin table.
Oh man!
It'll be for the graveyard house. It's going to be like maybe like a 30-inch circle, and then just casually figure out a good arrangement of the animals in there. And there's a few cats, a gopher skull, a couple of fun things.
Look, a few cats.
You should make a new front door. Or maybe it's a back door for the house that is that. So it's like a clear epoxy door with just dead animals in it.
That's a good idea. I want to carve marble this year.
Idea. Don't do that.
I want to make at Ann's. We killed some time one evening before I was set to leave and before Jenny was set to leave, and we were just hanging out talking and whittling. And I haven't whittled really in a long, long time. It's been years. So I whittled a little spoon, which got me thinking. I should either make a whittling knife, blacksmith up a whittling knife, and sharpen it, polish it, and then whittle something. So that's a video whittling knife. The Maker Man, the big Maker Man moniker that's on the wall. I was talking to JD, and he's going to come, and we're going to make the frame for it. So the Maker Man frame is going to be 8 feet in diameter, made in steel. With scrap steel, we're going to just weld up bits and pieces together and stand it up. And then I'm going to open it up to the community. This is a real long-term project. But I'm going to open it up to the community for people to make the different panes. So you'll get all that. You'll get that blue region. You'll get that red region. You'll get that green region. And you can just tell whatever story you want in there. But what I want is that Maker Man to be a real piece of glass cut hole into the building, stuck in the building. That's my goal. My long-term goal is to actually have that stained glass be real. And we're going to weld up the frame, which would be like the so-called leading part. We're going to weld that up out of just any scrap we could find, and just so it'll have a nice texture to it, but it'll all be that black line. And then everybody would get a template, and then you'd have to make sure that your glass would fit in that template, and then we put it in the window. Could you imagine having 35 people make a stained glass thing? It won't be done until the year 2050.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a dream.
So
that's what I have now.
That's
and
a big list
more.
of projects.
Yeah.
Do you have anything like? I'm not really sure how to classify this, but is there anything really different that you've been interested in, or something that's either like a style of thing or
marble carving for sure is like I want to do like somewhat of a abstract piece of marble. I'll probably do something that's a little bit more figurative that we're familiar with. I mean, I'm not going to do like the Pietà, but I'll do something that's a little bit more recognizable as a shape potentially. But I want to carve marble. I carved this time last year.
Like
I started
Burt
carving. I'm going to carve Burt Reynolds in the Bandit. That would be awesome.
Oh, that would be awesome.
There's so many skilled carvers online right now. It's carving stone. So that's inspiring me. What do you got?
You see this? So inside This is a bowl that I made a long time ago. Inside is a piece of leather, but if you remove the leather, it's Burt Reynolds.
Oh wait,
Can
I
you see
can't
that?
see it. Yo,
can't
you're a
see it.
little,
It's like
you're a little
all-
too pixelated.
Ah,
I
that's
can't see
unfortunate.
it. Send
I'll send-
us a still shot of it.
Okay, I will do. But I love the Burt Reynolds look during the Bandit day. Actually, that was his look forever. But I made
Yeah.
this bowl, and it's kind of like a hidden little Easter egg in there. If you remove the leather bottom, there is Burt Reynolds from the movie Bandit. So, yeah. Sorry to interrupt. I
Imagine-
just got really excited. We talk about Burt, I'm gonna go off.
Could you imagine if they did the Burt Reynolds brand now, or that the Smokey and the Bandit now? It would be video games. It would never end. It would just go on forever.
It would be Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, we're talking about it now. They're definitely gonna do it again.
They have to.
Probably.
Yeah.
Who would be a good Burt Reynolds?
I mean,
Ryan
probably
Gosling.
Ryan Gosling. Yeah. He's playing the Fall Guy. There's
Is
a
he?
Fall Guy movie coming out, and he's the.
Who's gonna go
main
see
character.
that?
It actually looks really fun. I'm probably gonna go see it.
I don't know if Ryan Gosling's got it. We might have to put him on the short list.
Well, David, what about you? What's coming up this year? Or what are you excited about?
You mentioned door making. I got 2 books on door making because I'm going to make a door for the other house, and I have no idea what it takes to make a door. So that's going to be one of the big projects this year. I want it to be like a statement door, like it.
Yeah,
Just,
I got to make doors for the barn,
yeah.
like the big doors and then the little doors too. I want to do.
So that's going to be fun. So 2024 for me is the year of organization. So it's consume less, organize more. That's been what I've been telling myself for weeks now. Bob mentioned the bamboo printer a few weeks ago, and I got the A1 when it came out, or not when it came out, but I got that a few weeks ago, and that thing prints amazing. For an FDM printer, like it just works. I know there's videos out there that says it just works. I think I've had 5 FDM printers now, and this one is just, I can't say enough good things about it. It just works. It's amazing. It's fast, and I'm not a 3D printer guy, but it just works. And so I've been making
Sounds like you are.
I've been making all these little organizers for all my drawers. So for like 3 days, that thing was printing nonstop little drawer organizers. And so it's just, I'm trying to really organize everything. So everything has its home, everything has its place. And that's not only for me, but it's for when my brother's in the shop and he knows exactly where things need to go when we're cleaning up, or he knows where to go to when like I need a, you always have these little emergencies like, I need pliers, and he'll know right where they are. And I've been doing a lot of different lists. Like I usually just have like 1 or 2 lists going at the same time of projects or things to do that day. I'm going crazy with lists. Like I'm just really trying to organize my brain. And like I have this list of, I just call looming, things that just sit in my brain and just eat up mental space because I need to take care of them. Like, oh, I have to email so-and-so, or I need to send this saw blade out to go get sharpened, or I need to organize my transactions for taxes coming up. Like just having those things in a list just makes me feel better. Even though I know that I have to do them, some of these things don't need to be in a list. Just seeing it written down helps me get over some of that stuff. And I deleted all social media. On January 1st, I deleted all social media on my phone. The only social media app I have on my phone is YouTube. And that's because there are certain YouTube podcasts that I'll listen to in the car. But I've got no Twitter, no Instagram, no Facebook messages, no print. Like I don't want it.
How are you going to survive? I don't get it.
I can still post on Instagram, and I know, right?
I'm just kidding.
I have now that time is on the computer, or I do. Unfortunately, you can't post Instagram stories on the computer, so I still have an iPad that I could use that for stories and stuff. But the idea is to have more time to think and less time to consume. So consume less, organize more.
That's smart.
Drive to Nashville. I was about 4 hours into my drive when I realized I didn't turn on any noise. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't turn on a podcast or anything.
That's
like,
an amazing moment.
Just thinking of like
we
planning out projects.
We talk
Can
about.
you guys hear me?
You went out for a second.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. I'm here then.
We've talked about in the past of, you know, when you get in the zone and you're in that crazy mental state when you're just working on the thing and none of the outside world matters. Those moments happen less and less for me. And I think it's just because I'm consuming too much stuff all the time. And I want to get into that flow state a little bit more. So I've been spending a lot of time, like I go for a 30-minute walk every morning. No headphones, no phone. I do have my phone, but there's no entertainment on my phone anymore. And it's just time to think. I'm in the shower. There's no music is playing. It's just, I need time to think. I need those shower moments, those aha moments to come to me. So it's just, this is the year of consuming less and organizing more.
Yeah,
and
that's really smart.
And it's not even the whole organization and consuming less. It's not. It doesn't even feel like a temporary thing, because that's all I think about now. Like I think, okay, I need to not watch so much YouTube. I need to not care. Like I'm unfortunately, I'm trying to have more time to myself, but that time to myself is thinking about not consuming stuff, which is kind of a weird little circle I've fallen into. But I'm really into it. I'm really into not having social media right now.
Well, but as that becomes the norm for you, you'll think about it less, I would imagine.
That's the hope, yeah.
There's a certain amount of withdrawal probably still that you're going through, and where it's at least on your mind.
Yeah.
But that'll become less, I would imagine. You know, it's funny, like the scrolling and just the consuming. I've been thinking about this, and I couldn't put words to it until something you said a minute ago. It feels like empty calories. It feels like you're like just eating chips. You know what I mean? Like they're good when they go in your mouth and they do nothing for you, and you feel bad afterwards, and you've wasted all of this time, and you've wasted what could have been beneficial hunger on something that was good for you, something that gave you something, but you've wasted it on this just and it's so easy to do. And as I've been like laying around more the last couple weeks, I've definitely scrolled a lot more and just wasted time, because I don't really feel like doing a lot else, but I've been in that a whole lot more than I'm usually in it, and I don't like it. It's just not. It does not.
You know what I find?
beneficial.
What I've been doing lately is when I find myself doing that, which seems like it's a cultural thing now. This is what we all do globally, is just sit and scroll. I try and find something that I've always been curious about that I've never taken the time to learn. Like, for instance, the other day I was just scrolling and just killing time doing other things. I try and double task, but instead of filling my ears with nonsense, I filled my ears with what are all the amendments of the Constitution?
Oh.
Like a history lesson, these like 1 hour videos that I'm just playing. I'm not looking at them. I'm just listening to them. These 1 hour videos of American history, or these like various things that I'm curious about. Like, how was this made? And so I'm trying to focus the compulsory need to do that, which is something that's been ingrained in our culture of late, with something educational. So
I think for me, there was like a tipping point recently, and I think it's two things that just kind of put it over the top. Is one, short form video, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, TikTok, or YouTube Shorts. Like, it's so freaking addicting, and you'll watch one, and then you just all of a sudden 15 minutes has gone by because I'm watching wiener dog videos, or
I'm watching
on
Yorkie videos.
On Instagram, I would see these amazing, just phenomenal woodworking videos of people doing just crazy stuff, and it was making me feel like oh, I've been doing this full time for 10 years. I should be making amazing, incredible stuff. And it was making me
You
feel
are.
really bad. I agree, but I would just see these other people doing these incredible things, and I'm like, I am nowhere near that level of woodworking, and I would just feel bad, and I should feel good about what I'm doing. And a few years ago, I stopped listening to all podcasts because I was like, I think I have this, like, I'm easily addicted to like digital stuff, and so I stopped listening to podcasts. And so I still will listen to a podcast every once in a while, like on a long drive, or when something I feel would be really entertaining or important comes up. I'll listen or watch that. But I become so addicted to learning stuff. I have all these like subscriptions to like masterclass.com and Studio and LinkedIn Learning and Skillshare and all these different ones, because I felt like I was doing myself good by constantly watching tutorial stuff. And to be honest, it wasn't doing me any good at all. I was just watching the stuff as entertainment. It was just more forms of digital consumption, and so I'm trying to get rid of that as well too. Not watch so many. I think I'm doing myself a favor by watching somebody pour concrete into a form, because like, oh, someday I might want to do that. I'm not. When it comes time for me to do that, that's when I should watch that video.
Right.
Yeah, I think we all know how to get to YouTube. And
Yeah.
so, like, we don't have to watch everything on YouTube now for future stuff. We can
Yes.
just go to it then
Yeah.
when we need it. Yeah, I'm the same way. I do the same thing. I spend way too much time, like, looking up how to do something, how to replace some part on a Land Cruiser that, like, I'm 10 years, 15 years away from even taking that part off, much less
Yeah.
replacing it. Like, I'm not even, I don't need that yet. Yeah, I'm going through a lot of the same stuff, I think. Similarly.
Information on demand.
So, for me, looking forward for this year, one of the things is, you were talking about the watching other people do work and feeling bad about it, about what you do. That comparison, you've heard the saying, comparison is the thief of joy, or something to that effect. And I think that becomes more and more true the longer I make things. Is I am constantly comparing, whether I mean to or not, comparing myself to other people's things that they're making. And it used to be that we could just make things, put it on the internet, and it had value just because there wasn't a whole lot of it. Whether it was good or not, whether it was as good as it could be, both the video and the thing, it had value just because there wasn't a lot of stuff to compare it to. But now you see amazing things being created by people who are doing it as a hobby. It is not their job. And they're making amazing content. They're making amazing things. And that is the feeling that I get when I see people doing this stuff for fun, and it's way better than what I do for work. I'm like, well, crap. Like, what do I do about that? And then it's like, do I have to do anything about it? No, I don't have to do anything about that. I don't have to try to outpace somebody. I don't have to try to outrun or outmake somebody. It's not about me versus them. It's about me versus me. And then I'm like, no, it's not. It's not about me versus anything. I'm making stuff that I want to have, and I shouldn't fall into that trap. But I do on a constant basis of comparison. So one of my things for this year is just trying to, I don't know, like disassociate my own, like, I can't think of the word, like how well I do something, anything, from anybody else.
How do you do that?
We don't have to compare.
You just have to be conscious of it?
I think
Me
being
versus
conscious
me.
of it and just
Me
realizing
versus
that, like,
me is a good title.
well, but I also don't want to fall into the trap of one-upmanship on myself. I think it's really dangerous, and I think that happens a lot with people who create online, because you're constantly trying to get eyeballs. So things have to be bigger and better. And I've tried to not do this for a long time, but I've still fallen into it. If I do a project around, I don't know, something in the shop, if I do another one that's similar, it has to be bigger, it has to be better, it has to be out there further. And that's like such a terrible way to have to qualify things. Sometimes you just need another thing. Sometimes you just want to make another thing that's identical or similar or not as interesting. I don't know. I mean, I think the problem that I'm finding is that I'm putting all of these qualifications on things to be able, like, to justify it. If it's going to be a video, if it's going to cost, if it's going to take the time, it's going to take the money, then it has to be this, whatever this thing is. And I think it's a silly way to limit yourself. It's pretty natural, but it's still pretty silly. So one of my things for this year is trying to really talk myself out of that and give myself some freedom to just make things that are, this sounds terrible, that are maybe not that interesting, but they're still fun, or they're still useful, or they're still... And it was funny because I was laying in bed last night trying to think of what the next video was going to be, and this subject kind of started rolling around in my head. And I don't want to give it all away, but I think I'm actually going to make a video about how to decide what to make. Like, what are the qualifications that each of us put into the effort that we're going to throw at anything? Because we qualify it one way or another. And I can find myself qualifying it in ways that I think are ridiculous. And I want to be able to qualify things by a different set of rules going forward, you know. And I want other people to have the freedom to do that too. So that's a big thing for me this year. I also think, you know, I've been talking about making products for several years, and we've made some products and we've done some things and we've put things out. But I feel this nagging kind of just draw to making, I want to create a thing that is useful for people. That's the, like, I want something that it's not a novelty, it's not a cool thing to go on the shelf. Like, I want to make something that makes somebody's job or hobby or home better, makes it easier for them, makes it, I don't know. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's software. I don't know if that's digital files. I don't know if that's like a physical thing. But I'm tired of wanting that and not really knowing what it is. So
I think a little bit of advice that I got years ago was like, go through your day to day, and go through your day to day, the things you do, the rituals you do, no matter what it is, and try and look for a loophole in the ritual that you do day to day that needs help. Even if it's something you already do day to day that you don't realize could be improved, you know, take a good analytical look at what you do, what your wife does, day to day to day to day, whether it's home, workshop, car, driving, anything. Just look for rituals that you do and see how any one of those particular ones that stand out could be improved. And, you know, it's a good way to start to focus your attention on finding what it is.
I think you'll find it.
Jocko realized we all use this knife, so Jocko came up with the idea of making that knife. You know, that's, you know. Go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say, I think you're on your way to finding what that thing is, because you've been talking about, like, 3D printing this thing. Oh, wait, how do I generalize this so everybody else can use it? And so if you just keep doing that, you're going to find that one thing, like, oh, yeah, a large percentage of people could use something like this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think I'll get there. I hope I get there. You know, this year I want to make sure that I've made progress towards that. And I think, you know, I also, the comparison and the qualification that I was talking about a minute ago has a lot to do with that as well. It's like, you know, I can, like these little trays I was talking about a few weeks back, I can come up with all sorts of little trays, and I could come up with a cool idea. Like, I don't know, people have trays, they can design their own little thing. I mean, is there value there? Is that something that actually has a uniqueness, not like I'm Special Bob uniqueness, but like, can I offer something there to make something better that other people wouldn't have naturally done themselves, or the effort to do would be too great for them? And so I think there's a certain amount of healthy qualification there in comparison with whatever I design for other people. But I also don't want to overthink that so far that, like, well, why should I even try to take this any further, because other people already make the thing, or other people already have, you know what I mean? So there's like a balancing act there of trying to be useful and innovative versus trying to
Don't-
go too far. Yes,
Don't
Jimmy.
overlook the cool factor. The cool factor, you could make something that everybody has, but you have one little thing to it, like the way I'm just watching you right now. You picked up that thing and you made it a point to make sure the dovetails fit together. You could have just held it up and put it back down, but you compulsively picked it up and made sure it slid together, which is the little bob attachment to it. That's the bob contribution to trays. You made them so they slide together. And you took a second unconsciously and made sure it slid together because that sliding together gives you that satisfaction that I made this and it slides together. I could tell when you
Fair
played
enough.
with it.
Yeah.
And that is the cool factor. Don't overlook the cool factor because you could make something that everybody has 100 of. Like, for instance, this is a DFM Toolworks pen. Yeah, JT sent me that. It's a beautiful pen. It's just a pen pencil that we've all had 100 mechanical pencils. But there's something super sexy about the fact that it's a triangle and that it's got a lot of weight to it. You know, for instance, the ice pick. But people like my ice pick because it's got some, you know, it's got like a cool factor to it. I'll tell you a funny story about the ice pick. Greg Pennington, the chairmaker. He dabbles in social media. It's not his thing. He focuses on traditional hand tools. So day to day, he's not scrolling like all of us. So I said, I give you a little Jimmy Diresta starter kit. I gave him this and the razor blade and the knife. And he said, oh, thank you very much. And the next morning I went in and Justin maybe and him were talking in the corner. And Justin goes, I got to tell you, Greg picked up the ice pick and said, this is really cool, but I have no idea what it is. Is this a bubble blower? Like, he goes, I don't understand why. I know everybody in Jimmy's world has one of these. He goes, but I don't know what it's for. And Justin pulled the sheath off and he went, oh my God, had no idea that it was an actual usable tool. I just thought it was just like an iconic thing that people did because they liked Jimmy. He didn't understand what the point of it was. Anyway, so you have that cool factor in those little trays. I'm sure you could bring that cool factor to anything you work on. So that's the idea. It's not necessarily looking for the same exact thing that's completely outside the box of what we all expect, but it could be, you know, I don't have it on me here. I have it, maybe there's one here. This is another example of a pen. You know, I like this pen. This is a fancy, sexy pen. I like because it's got a cool factor to it, but it's just a pen. The big pen for 10 cents is the same exact thing. So don't think you have to come up with a new patentable invention versus something that we use all the time that just has a lot of, like, it exudes style or cool factor, or even that one little subtle thing, like when I hold this pen in my hand, I'm always doing this, you know, or you guys want to get real fancy, you know, I don't know, whatever. I was looking for a switchblade, but you know, what is that one little mechanical thing that, you know, that dovetail slides together? That's like, oh. You know, you do it and you go,
yeah. One of the interesting things that I've learned over the last couple of years is how I'm not necessarily my audience. And that makes it difficult for me to, it's just another thing to figure out. It's not difficult, but like, so with the trays and those pens, they write just like a big pen, like you said. But the design in those things, the way that they feel, the way that the heaviness, the look of them, they're an aesthetic improvement or uniqueness that you're drawn to. And that's why you wanted to have the thing. Yeah. I am much more of a, you know, function over form person. And so, like, I would never, ever waste money on a pen because of how it looked. That's just me. And I say waste, I mean, that's even telling of the way that my brain works, because it's not a waste. It's just, you know. And so when I think about, you know, something functional like these trays or something, I'm looking at it from a almost purely what can it do? And so I have a hard time saying, how could this look that makes it interesting for people who that is the top tier, like, draw, you know what I mean? So like, I'm looking at it, how can I make it more functional, or how can I, you know, make it do this thing, not how can I make it look, which it's just a different group of people. I mean, there's tons of overlap, but it's a different thing for people to be drawn to that I think I'm not really in tune with. And so that's part of this too, is just trying to step outside of my own desires and my own things that I'm drawn to, and look a little bit further, a little more broadly about how I can make an improvement on something that reaches a different group of people. If that makes any sense. But anyway, that's this year. Is I want to make something that helps people, makes people's lives better, and something that, rather than trying to make a new thing every couple of weeks, I want to make a thing, and then make that thing better, and then make that thing better.
Iterate on it.
I don't ever do that, and it's never been a big need for me. But I think I'm just at a point now where like I want to dig in on something.
Would that be like a bucket, like a series of videos where you just keep redoing the same thing but better and better?
I don't even know if it's video stuff. I think I just want to be able to offer something to people that takes longer than a week to do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out, but I think there's something in me that needs to jump outside of the pace a little bit more and just make something a little longer term, bigger effect kind of thing. So I don't know.
Yeah. I want to just bring up a subject. I've been having a conversation with some people on the side, some friends asking me advice, and I'm no psychologist. I'm no I'm not a studied psychologist, but I can recognize, because I do it too, I can recognize where and when people are in their own way. And you said me versus me earlier, which made me think about this little soliloquy I'm going to go on. I've been having this conversation more and more with people and I say to them, I see you spending a lot of time just working on your website. Is that a distraction from you confronting everything else you need to do? Yes. I see you spending a lot of time making things over and over and over and over again to get them perfect when the first one is good enough. Is that a distraction? What are you doing? Why are you taking so much time to make something that's already been made 3 times? So I notice it a lot of times when I speak to just fans in passing, and we talk, and it's fear and distraction are like 2 of the biggest things that we do. We do things that have nothing to do with the long-term goal, but we feel like we're still being busy. And it sort of satisfies the need to put in a good day's work, but we're not inching towards our goal because of fear. And I said, I'm having this conversation with a few friends, intimate friends, and I'm trying to get them on the right track. And I do it too. That's why I kind of can recognize it. I'm lucky enough to kind of see it a little bit further away. What are we collectively, figuratively thinking? What are we doing that is taking us on a path of work, but it's not the work where we want to go? You really got to pay close attention. I do it all the time. I'm like, I'm going to clean my truck. It has nothing to do with the things I need to get done today. I feel busy. I feel like I've got something accomplished, but it's not towards the goal, the bigger goal. It could be the short-term goal, the long-term goal. How often are we distracting ourselves because we're afraid of going down that path or opening that door to that project or that avenue or that Etsy shop or that?
I would like to go even deeper into this and just do a full episode of our own distractions that we're doing, because I think this is that's a good hour conversation right there.
For instance, I used to live with somebody that would want to save every animal that came through. I'm like, okay, you want to have a baby every 2 weeks? You're still working on the 3 babies you already have. And from a 1,000-mile view, it's just a distraction to avoid confronting the things that make us scared. I do it. And I'm not picking on that person. I do it. I do it too. I was at Ann's house, and Ann has a couple of stray cats around her barn. She's like, take them back to New York. I'm like, I can't take one. I'm like, I put it in my car and travel 1,000 miles with a cat in a cage. It would be great. The other 5 cats would love this cat. No, it's a distraction. I'd get home and I wouldn't jump into the work I'm needing to do. I'm going to take this cat and get it neutered and taken care of, and it's a distraction. We all have our different distractions. And what are you doing on the regular basis that is feeling like work but has nothing to do with your long-term goal? And then you ask yourself, when you look back and you go, why am I not as good as this one? Or why am I not getting as many views as that one? Or why am I not making as much money as that one? Because you spent half the year organizing your shop wall. and not maybe.
Yeah, David. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
That's
my
words of wisdom towards 2024.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, but I do think that there's the flip side to that sometimes those distractions, when they're not habitual, I think the problem is when
they're therapeutic.
Habitual. Yeah, sometimes they're therapeutic. Sometimes they are enough of a separation from your normal work that they allow your brain to be able to, churn on something.
Yeah.
But
when you look back at somebody
remove friction from you doing the work that you need to do. So yeah.
But it's definitely therapeutic. But when you look back and you spent 4 months, and I'm just using this as an example, I'm not calling anybody out, organizing your shop wall and not looking for new work or outputting. The only way we get input is by outputting. Got to remember that too. You will only get input if you output. You're not going to sit around and some big movie director or some big brand's going to knock on your door simply because you're the best at it and nobody knows about it. If all your friends and family know you're the best, machinist, whatever it is, if you're not doing output, you're not going to get input. You could be the best at anything. If you're not showing people what you do and showing off and getting past that, I don't want to be a show-off. We're all show-offs now. It's the only way to live. It's the only way to make a living is to show off. Unless you want to work at a company and just get a regular paycheck, which is fine too. If that's what you like, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be an artist, if you want to make content, whatever it is, you have to show off.
You have to show off.
Nobody's going to come around and be like, can you randomly do this random thing that randomly I assume you're good at? Because it's never going to happen.
Right.
Opportunity's never going to knock unless you hang a sign on your front door.
So let's talk about the distraction stuff next time. I think that would be good. Somebody write it down, and we'll talk about that and the other things that we never talk about next time. David has to go in a few minutes for a little bit. So, David, why don't you go ahead and tell us about what you want to recommend this week, and then you can jump off and we can finish up, and then you can come back and we can do the after show.
Shoot. I totally forgot. I don't have anything.
Okay.
Somebody else go, and
okay.
I'll go through my history.
I'll go. So I found, through laying on the couch, I found this reel, and it's old footage from, I don't know where it's from, but it's how Matchbox cars were made, like back in the 50s, I believe. And it is fascinating to watch.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like, this guy making drawings, big drawings of this, looks like a Model T type car. And then he makes all the different views of it, and then he makes a different person makes a big model of it. I'm talking like remote control car size model of it, and then they use this pantograph type thing to scale it down, and they make the molds, and then they pour the die cast, and they stamp them, they stamp them, and it's wild. It's the whole process, and it's just weird that it started so big on paper, and I just didn't expect it. It's really cool to watch. And I think it was a reel on Instagram, but I'll put a link to it and check it out. What you got, Jimmy?
Nothing good. I just watched true crime documentaries the entire drive. When I did listen to something, I just had true crime documentaries playing in the background. And I'm looking at my history. I did a deep dive on the Chappelle Show. If you guys, it's been enough years that where a lot of the audience maybe doesn't know the Chappelle Show and Charlie Murphy. There's old Charlie Murphy stuff I was watching. One of the funniest comedians is Charlie Murphy. So unfortunately, he passed away. But just all true crime stuff. I'm looking true crime stuff and news. Nothing good. Well, the true crime stuff is good, but it's like eating potato chips. It's all the same stuff. Oh, here you go. The election of George Washington was weirder than you think. George Washington was elected president 13 years after the Declaration of Independence. You think like George Washington became the president like 2 weeks after we won the war. 13 years later, the presidency was like figured out.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to send it to you. So this is one of those videos I was talking about where I'm just trying to get some info. I'll share that with you guys. That's it. That's my recommendation.
Cool. David,
George
you found
Washington,
I did.
American History.
And it's really good. It's how to quickly learn drumming. So Tim Ferriss, author of the 4-Hour Workweek, not a musician, not a drummer. He wanted to challenge himself and see if he could learn how to drum in like 5 days and then play with Foreigner on stage. So he trains with Stuart Copeland, who is he's one of the most famous technical drummers in the world. He was the drummer for the Police, so he trains with him and a couple other people, and then he plays on stage less than a week later in front of a live audience. It's kind of fascinating.
Wow, cool.
All right,
Check that out.
I will see you guys in a few minutes for the after show.
Right,
Okay,
buddy.
sounds good. Big thanks to everybody at Patreon who continues to support the show. And
Thank you.
in fact, we got a message from Kevin E. a couple days ago, and Kevin was stopping his Patreon support and sent us all a message to just say thank you, and he needed to stop it for different reasons, and was a little apologetic. And I don't want anybody to ever feel like they need to apologize for stopping supporting this show. We are grateful for any bit of it. We are grateful for the people that are just listening and do not support as well. But it was a really nice message and from Kevin. So Kevin, thank you for sticking around.
Yep.
Thank you for continuing to listen, even though you're not supporting, and that's awesome.
Totally
But the
okay.
people in our top group that they've been around for a long time, most of them, and they've been continually supporting, making the show happen, literally. So big thanks to Crabtree Creative, Michael Menedjan, Warren Works, The New Janky Workshop, Scott at Dad It Yourself DIY, Sean Beckner, Odin Leather Goods, Rich at Low End Designs, Chad's Custom Creations, Chad from Mancrafting, Works by Solo, Albert's Woodworks, Corey Ward, and Nick Ryan. Then other people like Kevin that help us out at all different levels. Everybody gets the after show, and we are grateful for every single bit of the support. If you want to join up, New Year, if you want to help out the show for a bit or for the year or whatever, you can go to patreon.com/makingit. Help us out. The after show is a separate RSS feed that you get on Patreon. So you get the URL there. You can put it in your podcast player. You can listen to the after show separately. The videos also get posted to Patreon for the after show. So if you want to watch it in video, you can do that as well. So yeah, that's big thanks to them. And I think that's everything for the regular show. And then when David gets back on, we'll do the after show in just a second.
Yeah, that's it.
Got anything else, Jimmy?
I really been thinking a lot about these distraction things. It'll be a good podcast next week when we dig into it. But ask yourself, and I'm not free and clear of this myself. Ask yourself, what am I doing that's not serving my goal, basically, but makes me feel like I'm getting something done?
Yeah,
that's the
and a
thing.
big part of that is having that goal clarified at least a little bit
Yep.
in your head too. You got to know what you're aiming at. So
I said to my friend the other night, I said, this person says, I'm working so hard. I said, you're working so hard on the things that don't bring you to your goal. And it was just simply by me saying that to this person, they were like, okay, I could see that. I could see that. You're right. Because not getting the results they expect, but
yeah,
you're working in a vacuum.
cool.
Anyway,
All right,
we can talk
let's
more
dig
about
into
it
that next week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Love
See you next time.